everyone. Welcome to At Matters, presented by the Outer Loop Theater Experience, where we explore the question, what are we here to do? My name is Melissa Wilson. I'm the marketing director and Inner Enso facilitator for the Outer Loop. And who are you?
I am Rachael Yoder. I am one of the artistic directors of the Outer Loop. And we have someone else here who you can't see.
I was eating a grape. I thought I wasn't. I didn't know I was speaking. I'm the grape-eating Michael Herman, founder of the Outer Loop, and helping produce today's episode.
But was it a cotton candy grape? That's what I want to know.
It was a cotton candy grape, and we'll talk about those another. That's a whole episode in and of itself.
That is a whole episode in and of itself. A recent discovery.
Oh my
Exciting.
God, they're the best.
Cotton candy grapes. Yes.
Okay,
I have one of my dad's friends knows the person that made the first cotton candy grape.
What?
Shut up. Okay, now it really is its own episode. Now that we know that.
We have that person. Not only is its own episode, but we have to have that person on because I have so many questions.
Questions for this.
I have all the questions, and it's another episode. I know we okay, but yes,
Great.
That's an episode.
Great.
Okay.
We'll make it happen.
Great. Amazing. Important discoveries have happened already on this podcast.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, cool. So to transition us, for those of you who haven't listened to this podcast yet, where have you been? And also, how we like to start every episode is with a game, because just like in theater, we need to transition from where we've all been and the days that we've all had into a shared space and a shared environment. We do that with a game. This game that we like to play on this podcast is called Five Things. It's from improv, and the way that it works is that one of us will present a category and say 5 things that blah, 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 something in that category. And then the other person, without thinking, has to just list off the first 5 things that come to mind. It's about not overthinking and just sharing what comes to the top of your head. All right. So are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay. I think I'm going to give them to you first. You ready?
Okay.
5 things, Melissa, that you love about being female.
Okay. I love princesses. I love
It's so cute.
I love like feeling pretty, like putting on makeup and being like, wow. I love, okay, this isn't something that's like inherent to being female, but I think I experience it this way because I am a woman. Like the magic of summer. I just love like driving with my windows open and laying out on a blanket in my yard, and I don't know. I just think there's like a very simple magic to summer. And then I love doing hair, which I know you would not guess because I have none, but I'm actually really good at doing hair.
So, I mean, you're good at what you did to your hair. I couldn't do that.
That's true. That's true. But like I love braiding and curling hair and styling it and everything. So it's kind of sad that I don't have any, but it's okay. And then I love like when girls just run random errands together. I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like boys aren't like, oh my gosh, you want to go to Safeway together? Like that's totally what me and my friends do. So
amazing.
Yeah. Those are my 5 things.
Those are excellent 5 things.
Great.
And none of them are what I expected you to say, which is even better.
Yay. Good. Okay. My 5 things for you is, who are your favorite 5 like female celebrities, or like 5 females in the world that you look up to?
Oh, so good. Okay, Emma Stone. Most especially after Poor Things. I just can't even describe how incredible that performance was and what she did with that. She's a total icon. Okay, Emma Stone for sure. Carey Mulligan. I love her. I think she's a phenomenal actress and artist. And I
don't know who that is.
Oh! All right, we're gonna have to. Sorry. We're gonna have to get together and watch a bunch of movies
Okay.
and watch a lot of Carey Mulligan and her work.
Great.
I love, who else is an icon? Oh my God, Michelle Obama. That woman is just like, I don't even know how a person can be so wonderful as Michelle Obama is. So she's like definitely up there on the list. Okay, that's 3. 4. I also, okay, I think that I don't know. Okay, I don't know like enough about this person to like even really include her in this list, except for the fact that every time I see her do anything, I'm fascinated by it. And it's Ariana Grande, and I like am too old to really understand her significance in the like pop culture universe. But every time I've ever seen her like do an interview or anything, I'm just like, that is a magnetic human being. She's great. Okay, number 5. Oh, so hard. So hard to pick. So hard to pick. So many choices. Oh, I'm not supposed to think. I've loved watching Rachel McAdams's career evolve. I think that people kind of wrote her off after Mean Girls, but then like the more serious roles that she's taken on since then, I've just been really impressed with her work and her growth. All right, those are my 5. There's so many more.
I know. There's so many amazing women.
So hard to choose.
So hard to choose. Yeah. So, if you couldn't guess by all these women-themed prompts, we're going to be talking about the Inner Enso today. And if you don't know what the Inner Enso is, it is a group that we started at the Outer Loop that the purpose is to just create a safe space for women to create art together, because so often the female perspective is so marginalized. And so this year, it is a group of 8 women that are taking the year to devise a script that centers around the feminine experience. And I'm facilitating the group, and Rachel is a part of the group and has been helping with a lot of aspects of what's going on. And so we wanted to just take some time to talk about what the group is and why it is so important to us. So yeah, I would love to start off, Rachel. You were around. I was not around when this group originally formed at the beginning of 2023, I guess. So, and I know the idea came long before that. So could you just share a little bit about where that idea came from and what kind of led up to that?
Yeah, it's funny. When I was thinking before coming into this episode, I had to think, when did the idea start? And I think if I'm correct here, that it was 2016. And it was obviously that really, really tough election year. And in the lead up to that, just like all of the just like vicious dialogue around what it is to be a woman and the sort of like attacks on femininity that were very public, part of the public conversation. This was right around, Me Too. It was, we have Hillary Clinton. It was just like, there was just a lot of conversation about, what it is to be a woman and the experience of being a woman. And around that time, we just sort of started having a dialogue as a company, that we really need to focus in on that experience of being a woman and provide a space to have that conversation through our artistry. But it didn't really become anything until 2023. It was the first time that we actually gathered a group of women and said, okay, how does this work? How is this going to go? How is this process going to happen? How do we get this group of women to engage in this dialogue and then have some sort of artistic output from it?
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't realize that the idea had been around for so long. That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
yeah. And then you were part of I actually was not a part of the first iteration of the Inner Enso. So you were there for that, right?
Yeah, I was there, I would say, for the last 2 or 3 months of their process. So I started interning with the Outer Loop in September of 2023 and got the chance to jump on at that point, and they'd been meeting since January. But I got to jump in then. So I think they had maybe they were at a first or second draft of their script at that point. But it was still very much in flux. It was a super cool process because I got to give notes, and even parts of my experience and parts of a poem that I wrote made it into the script that they used. And it was sweet to feel so immediately valued, I guess, by this group of women, even though they'd been together for a lot longer and I was kind of the newbie. They were all older than me and more experienced than me, but they were just like, yes, your experience is necessary for this production, um and all those sorts of things. So then the show that they were creating was Haven, which we produced a workshop of in Chicago last November, I think. And yeah, I was just so grateful for the small role that I got to play in that process. And especially grateful once I then realized I was going to be facilitating, like leading the Inner Enso this year, because I was like, oh, okay, let me grab as much as I can from that experience, because I'd certainly never led anything like that before. Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that? So kind of what you are leading this year's Inner Enso group. So like you mentioned at the beginning, it's a group of 8 women and sort of charged with developing a new script about somehow related to the experience of being a woman. What has that process been like for you? How did you go about, in deciding how you were going to lead it? What was that experience like?
Yeah. So I think going into it, before I'd even talked to anyone who wanted to be a part of it, I kind of knew that I was probably going to be the youngest person in the group. And that was a really something that I wanted to be very aware of, I guess. I didn't want to go into leading something without like fully acknowledging the fact that I was going to be the youngest and therefore probably the least experienced person there in a lot of ways. And so I thought a lot about that, especially even just in the way that I formatted then my interviews and everything with the women who applied to be part of the group. Um, and but I realized pretty quickly, and I think it's definitely been the case, that being the youngest person there is such a gift to me. Like, I just get to learn from so many amazing people. And most of the group isn't that much older than me. I would say the majority of the group is in like their mid to late 20s, and I'm 22. So it's not that big of an age gap. But
With one exception.
yeah, with some there are sorry, I totally lost my
Sorry,
train
I
of
threw
thought.
you off.
No, you're so good. That's not on you. But yeah, so then going into interviewing people, I think there were quite a few people that applied, which was really cool for me to be like, oh my gosh, this thing that I'm passionate about is something that other people are passionate about. And then just getting to have conversations with all of these women who applied about kind of what we talked about in our 5 things. Like, what do you love about being a woman? What do you find difficult about being a woman? But I think even within that, we get asked, or we talk about the second question a lot more than we talk about the first question. Because there are genuinely a lot of difficult things about being a woman in like this day and age or whatever. And but there are also so many beautiful things about being a woman, and we can appreciate the princesses and braiding hair of it all while also recognizing like that's really hard, you know? And so it was really sweet to just get to hear what those things are for so many different women. And I think also sweet to give them that experience to get to explore those questions with someone was something that blessed them, which I was really grateful to be a part of. So, yeah.
So how do you go from okay, you've got this group of 8 women together, who've all got their experience of being a woman in the world. How do you go from, okay, we're a group of 8 women to here's a fully produced play? What is that script development process like?
That is a great question, and one that people kept asking me going into this process, and I was like, "I'm gonna be honest with you, girl, I have no clue." And I was like, I people keep telling me this is like the steps, but I don't really see how we're getting from A to B. But I think that was another thing that I just knew. I was like, I think it's gonna become clear, and that was I think I was right. As we're now about to go into the official writing process now in May, um yeah, the in a lot of ways the process has kind of decided itself. Um and so we started out we took the first few weeks to just like genuinely get to know each other. We used this format that I really like called the 5 H's, which is just kind of some categories to help people break down their lives and who they are to explain that to other people. So it has high times, hard times, higher power, heroes, and heritage. And so we used those, and everyone got some time to just share about themselves, and then other people would ask questions. And I was just taking notes, and it became clear pretty quickly that there were some really interesting similarities in a lot of our stories, like just parallels or things that two people had experienced very similar things, but for one person it was a positive, another person it was a negative, and it was like, whoa, that's really interesting. But I think that we knew that whatever we were going to create was going to have to come to some extent out of our own stories and experiences. And so it was cool to start seeing those parallels so quickly. So we did that. And then, yeah, we took some time to just like pull out those themes and parallels that we wanted to see more of. And then we started working on, then we started moving into like this writing prompt process. And I think throughout those first couple months, there were some difficult times, to be honest. Like, there were some kind of debates within the group, and they were things that needed to happen. And like, I made it clear up front. I was like, debates are gonna need to happen. You know what I mean? And they definitely did. And there were some hard conversations and difficult things, and like hard conversations for me because I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. You know what I mean? It wasn't just me being like, come on, guys, get your act together. It was like, oh, did I do this in a way that wasn't helpful or whatever. But I think everyone did a good job within those conversations of being like passionate and firm about what they believed, but also just being gracious with one another to, take our time to come to conversations and stuff. And so I've really come to see the group as this place of iron sharpening iron, where it's like that process isn't, sparks are gonna fly. Like, it's not necessarily a smooth process, but it's important. It's like actually necessary to make us all better people and help us better understand fully the cultural context in which we are people and in which we are women. So yeah. I don't know.
No, that's interesting to hear you talk about, because I kind of joined the process a little on the later side, so probably like right coming out of the sort of time that you're mentioning is when I joined. And I noticed that when I joined the conversation, the group had already established some group norms that you start every meeting with, is just kind of reading through those group norms, which, God, I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I just feel like, the process that you just described and everything that I've witnessed and how conversation takes place within the group, I don't know if it's necessarily unique to the fact that it's an all-female space, but I just do believe that it evolving that way in such like a, yes, it's iron sharpening iron sometimes, but it's respectful and it's generous and it's empathetic and there's listening. And yes, there's debate. And yes, there are people on very opposing sides of things, but it's the space is made for that conversation and it's not taken personally. And it's nope, we agree that, we're gonna disagree, but we're gonna listen to each other and we're gonna make space for opposing points of view. I just think that that comes perhaps a bit more naturally to it being an all-female space. I've certainly not seen it happen so seamlessly in a mixed space, and obviously I wouldn't know. I haven't been part of an all-male space, sort of by the nature of that. But I don't know. I just think there's something very feminine about the way that listening happens in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a sweet. Yeah, there's a good give and take in. Yeah, no, totally. I would love. You've been here since we started working on the writing exercises. I think your first meeting might have been our first writing exercise. The poem was your first time, right? Yeah. So I would love it if you wanted to talk about a little bit about some of the exercises we've done and also just the role that they play in the devising process as a whole.
Yeah, that's been really a joy to be a part of. I mean, I was very nervous actually the first time that it was my first meeting was the first writing exercise. I don't consider myself a writer, so I was sort of, oh God, we're gonna have to write this poem thing. But just even like the group poem exercise was just sort of, everybody on your own kind of offer up 2 lines of a poem, and then we sort of private chatted it to you, and then you arranged it into one cohesive thing. And it was just incredible. I mean, we had like 10 minutes. Everybody's got 10 minutes. Everybody write 2 lines, loosely based on some of the themes that we've been discussing as a group. And the way that it flowed together and made a cohesive structure with just that very little guidance was incredible. And it just spoke to, first of all, the amount of talent in the group and just how, okay, you've got 10 minutes, like what can come out of people is pretty amazing. And just how much shared experience there is in just, yeah, this is what it is to be a woman, that out comes this poem from 8 different people that hangs together really pretty seamlessly and made something very beautiful. So that was very inspiring to be the first writing exercise to be a part of. And all of the subsequent writing exercises, we've been working with the idea of the heroine's journey. That's been something that we've been talking about and teasing out as a group, and sort of picking apart the different steps in that journey, and have had several writing exercises related to that prompt. And again, every time that we do, everybody goes off and separately writes something and then offers it back to the group. And the through lines that you can see through everybody's experience are really interesting. And it's a different take on the same thing, but you're sort of watching. It's like a prism in a way, it's like the same light shining in, and then it just gets reflected out, bounced out in all these different ways. Or I think actually one group member said it's like, the same chord, but on 7 different strings, it's kind of how it's been playing out. So it's just been, I've never been a part of a group writing process like this. And it's just been really, really interesting. And it just feels very safe in there. It feels safe to be vulnerable. It feels safe to share experience. It feels safe to try things, to put out, imperfect, unfinished writing and offer it to the group and let that kind of breathe. So yeah, it's already been a really fruitful process. And I'm looking forward to the sort of more formal steps of, okay, how has this all become a play?
Right. Yeah. Which I think will be very different in some ways to this, like the last few months of just like, woo, like we're just gonna have fun and listen to each other and write fun things. And, it's like all to a point, but it's been a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? All over the place, I guess. I don't know. Like less linear. Less linear. So, but yeah, it'll be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's, I think, useful is that there are several people who do consider themselves writers in the group, who are going to take on, I think, a lot of the more structured aspect, moving this into, okay, now how does this become scripted dialogue? How do we still make sure that everybody feels heard and that their input from this whole process kind of makes its way into the final piece?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And could you talk a little bit just about devising processes? Because I think to most people, the concept of devising is not super familiar. And this is even different from like traditional devising. But yeah, just what that process is like in general, I guess.
Yeah, it's actually in a lot of ways the structure that we've been following with the Inner Enso it's pretty similar to the devising work that we do in Tanzania. And it really is, you have a lot of conversations, and themes start to just emerge naturally. It can be scary to go into a devising process because you're like, oh, we don't have a script. I don't know what it's going to be. We don't have anything.
Yeah.
But once you start to open up those conversations, you start to hear what bubbles to the top. It starts to take shape. Oh, okay, this is kind of what we're talking about. Then you do send off everybody, maybe separately, and say, okay, come back with maybe a monologue from the perspective of the challenge that we just heard about, or maybe come back with a piece of music that you feel responds to what we just talked about, or everybody kind of just take a half a day and come back with an offering and share it with the group. And then again, like it's been happening with the writing exercises, it's like, oh, interesting, that actually does kind of fit with that, and that kind of fits with that. And then ideally you've got somebody there who who's like a big picture sort of person who can start to shape all of the pieces into a cohesive story. And it always amazes me every time I go through a devising process, just how you start with nothing and then how quickly you can get to something very good. And then you just keep shaping, just keep going in and shaping all the different pieces. Maybe you add another piece here and there, and it starts to come together kind of like a collage of artistry, which is just it's always rewarding for me to work in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and so for us, I think like when you're in Tanzania, that's a 3-week process, right? For us, this is a year-long process. But it really, yeah, you're right. The bare bones are very much the same. And so for us, I guess February to May has been kind of this brainstorming, theme drawing out process. And then we're going to take the summer for the people that are writing to just write. We have 4 people who are writing. To just sit down and do that, and we'll all get together once a month so that if there are things that the writers are kind of getting stuck on, they can work through that. And also that way we can just maintain these amazing friendships. I was like, I can't imagine going 3 months without seeing these women. So that will also be nice, selfishly. Yeah. But yeah, then we'll come back together in September, hopefully with a first draft, and then just work on that kind of September to December. And give notes on a draft, get a new draft, maybe do a read through of the draft. Then, okay, what came out in a read through that hasn't come out when it's just on paper, until we come to a final draft in hopefully December. And then in April, probably, of next year, it'll be our show. Like, it'll be up on its feet.
Yeah.
And so it's a year-long devising process, but it's really more like a year and a half, because as soon as the script is done, then it's okay, casting and production team and rehearsals and all those things. So I'm so like beyond excited for what it becomes, and the fact that we get this built-in opportunity for the show to go up, that it's not just something that's there and we're really proud of, but we don't know if it's ever going to happen. But it's just, yeah, it's going to happen, and there will be an opportunity, hopefully, for all the women that have been part of it to be involved in the production, and also to involve other female creatives, other women identifying creatives who maybe have expertise that we don't have, in set building or directing or, whatever it is that we need. And yeah, I just continue to be so amazed and excited at what a wonderful opportunity this group is to just uplift women's voices. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a really cool process because it's so great to have that much of a runway and to have established, all of the group norms of this is a space where it's okay to disagree. This is a space where, it's not a personal attack. It's a debate of ideas. Because when you do get to that point in the process where, okay, we're reading stuff out loud and we're workshopping through stuff, you've already created that shared common language of this is a safe space to, critique each other's work and to get better and to really just try to improve the piece. So by the time that, you've really thoroughly workshopped it, it's like polished granite. You've got something that's really been through the irons sharpened along the way. Yeah, so it's been already a rich process, and I think will continue to be a rich process as we continue to move forward. So it's going to be very cool to watch it go from nothing into a full production over the span of time.
Yeah.
It's sort of like it was just occurring to me as you were discussing it. It's like a shared, like it's like in the womb and it's got like 8 mothers. And then,
I love it.
And it's going to be a baby with like 8 mothers. It's like amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool. We're all just going to be like, look what
it takes a village.
So truly. Yeah. So that's our Inner Enso.
Very cool.
And
so when can our audience be looking forward to that production? I think you said it.
I think April of 2025 is
April
the
of
goal.
2025.
So
perfect.
Yeah, and keep posted on all our social media and our website. You can join our email list. All of those things, all the information will be in those places so that you can stay up to date with what we're doing.
Amazing. And as a reminder, we release new episodes of this podcast every Thursday, wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure you follow us on all your favorite podcast platforms.
Yeah. Follow us on social media and then find who are your iron sharpens iron people. Like, what does that look like for you? I think it's been so valuable for me through Inner Enso and other relationships to find those people, and it's made me a better person. And so I just encourage you, think about who are those people in your life, or if you don't have them, go find some. They make your life way better.
Yes, we need things to be a little bit difficult sometimes. Amazing. And you can email us some of those answers if you'd like to podcast@outerlooptheater.org. We would love to hear from you. And until next Thursday, we'll see you then.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening.